When it comes to preserving food, the Amish have perfected methods that don't rely on electricity or modern gadgets. Their pork preservation techniques are so effective, they've stood the test of time for generations. Today, we'll uncover these fascinating secrets that everyone wants to know. Number 1. Salt curing. Salt curing is a highly effective and traditional method of preserving meat that dates back centuries. It involves applying a mixture of salt, often combined with sugar and various spices, to raw meat to draw out moisture and create an environment that inhibits bacterial growth. This simple yet powerful process allows meat to be stored for long periods without refrigeration. The choice of meat is crucial, with cuts such as pork belly, ham, or shoulder being ideal due to their balance of muscle and fat. The preparation of the curing mixture is equally important, typically involving coarse salt for its slower dissolving properties. Sugar is often added not only to balance the flavor, but also to aid in the preservation process by stabilizing the color and enhancing the taste of the meat. Spices like black pepper, garlic, bay leaves, and juniper berries are commonly included to infuse the meat with rich, aromatic flavors. The application process begins by thoroughly rubbing the curing mixture onto every surface of the meat, ensuring even coverage. The meat is then placed in a non-reactive container, such as a wooden box or food-grade plastic tub, where it is left to cure. During the curing period, which can range from several days to weeks depending on the size and thickness of the cut, the meat must be monitored and sometimes turned to ensure the cure penetrates evenly. Excess liquid released from the meat is often drained to prevent spoilage. Once the curing period is complete, the meat is carefully rinsed to remove excess salt and then allowed to air dry. At this stage, additional methods such as smoking can be introduced to further enhance preservation and flavor. Proper storage of salt-cured meat is vital. It should be kept in a cool, dark, and well-ventilated area, such as a cellar or pantry. This method not only extends the shelf life of the meat, but also develops complex flavors and a firm texture that are highly prized in culinary traditions around the world. Salt curing remains a cornerstone of sustainable food preservation and continues to be celebrated for its effectiveness and simplicity.
Number 2. The art of smoking pork. Smoking pork is a deeply intricate process that balances flavor infusion with preservation, and the Amish have elevated it to an art form. They use traditional smokehouses, built from stone or wood, which allow for controlled environments where temperature and airflow are meticulously managed. The selection of wood plays a pivotal role, with choices like hickory, applewood, and cherrywood, offering unique flavor profiles. Each wood type imparts specific smoky notes. Hickory provides a robust, almost bacon-like richness, while applewood lends a milder, slightly sweet aroma that complements the natural taste of pork. The Amish favor cold smoking, a technique where the meat is exposed to smoke at temperatures below 85 degrees Fahrenheit, 29 degrees Celsius, for extended periods, sometimes stretching over several weeks. This method does not cook the meat, but rather infuses it with flavor and creates a barrier that inhibits bacterial growth. This is particularly effective for long-term storage, as it preserves the meat's texture and enhances its longevity. The placement of the meat within the smokehouse is equally critical. Larger cuts like ham are positioned higher, where the smoke is denser and cooler, while smaller cuts, such as sausages or bacon, are hung lower to ensure even exposure. This strategic arrangement ensures optimal flavor penetration without over-smoking or drying out the meat. Humidity control within the smokehouse is another aspect the Amish expertly manage. Too much moisture can lead to mold growth, while too little can cause the meat to dry out excessively. Using natural materials like dampened sawdust or adjusting the ventilation, they maintain the ideal humidity to achieve the perfect balance. The Amish also employ a process of periodic rotation during smoking. This involves moving the cuts of meat to different positions within the smokehouse, ensuring consistent exposure to the smoke and preventing any uneven curing. This step, though labor-intensive, is crucial for achieving a uniform flavor and texture. The final stage of smoking involves allowing the meat to rest and age. This period lets the flavors mature and the meat's texture stabilize. The resulting smoked pork has a distinctively complex taste profile: earthy, savory, and slightly sweet, with a deep reddish-brown exterior that signals its readiness. In the Amish tradition, smoking pork is not just a preservation method, but a culinary ritual. The process relies on an intimate understanding of natural elements, from the choice of wood to the timing and technique. It's a practice steeped in knowledge passed down through generations, combining practicality with a profound respect for the craft. Number 3. Sealing in lard. Sealing pork in lard is an ingenious preservation method deeply rooted in tradition and practicality. The process begins with the rendering of pork fat to create liquid lard. This lard is carefully heated to melt it into a smooth, golden liquid, free from impurities. Meanwhile, the pork, often pre-cooked or smoked, is prepared by cutting it into manageable portions. These portions are placed into sterilized containers, ensuring minimal exposure to air during the preservation process. Once the pork is positioned, the hot liquefied lard is poured over it, fully submerging each piece. The key is to ensure no air bubbles remain trapped within the lard, as oxygen can lead to spoilage. As the lard cools, it solidifies into a thick, protective layer, effectively sealing the pork from any contact with air or moisture. This airtight barrier prevents bacterial growth and oxidation, allowing the meat to remain safe and flavorful for months when stored in a cool, dark environment. One of the remarkable aspects of sealing pork in lard is its dual function. Not only does the lard preserve the meat, but it also enriches its flavor over time. The fat acts as a natural marinade, infusing the pork with a subtle, savory richness that enhances its taste when later reheated or used in cooking. The method's sustainability is another advantage. Lard itself is a byproduct of pork butchering, meaning this preservation technique utilizes what might otherwise be discarded. Additionally, the lard can be reused after the preserved pork is consumed, provided it is reheated and strained to remove impurities. This cyclical use of resources exemplifies a no-waste approach that aligns with eco-conscious practices. Sealing pork in lard also offers flexibility in how the preserved meat can be used. The pork remains tender and flavorful, ready to be sliced, fried, or incorporated into stews and other dishes. The preserved lard itself becomes a valuable cooking ingredient, ideal for making flaky pastries or enriching soups. This preservation method requires careful attention to hygiene and storage conditions. Containers must be sterilized, and the preserved meat should be kept at consistent, cool temperatures to maintain its quality. Improper handling, such as insufficient sealing or exposure to fluctuating temperatures, can compromise the meat's longevity. The simplicity, sustainability, and flavor-enhancing qualities of sealing pork in lard make it a timeless preservation method. It is a testament to resourcefulness, using basic ingredients to achieve long-lasting, delicious results. This practice not only preserves food, but also embodies a deep respect for the resources and effort involved in its creation.
Number 4. Pickling with vinegar. Pickling pork with vinegar involves a meticulous process that combines preservation and flavor enhancement. The core of this method lies in creating a brine solution made from vinegar, water, salt, and a carefully selected blend of spices. The acidity of the vinegar acts as a natural preservative by lowering the pH level and creating an environment hostile to bacteria. This simple yet effective technique ensures the meat remains safe to eat for extended periods without refrigeration. The process begins with preparing the meat, typically using smaller cuts like pork loin, ribs, or trotters. These cuts are cleaned thoroughly and sometimes pre-cooked to ensure optimal texture and safety. Once prepared, the meat is layered into jars, leaving enough space for the brine to fully envelop each piece. The brine itself is a critical component. While vinegar forms the base, additional ingredients such as mustard seeds, peppercorns, bay leaves, cloves, and garlic can be added to infuse the meat with complex flavors. The balance of water and vinegar is essential. Typically, a 2-to-1 ratio of vinegar to water is used to achieve the right acidity while allowing for a milder taste. The mixture is brought to a boil to dissolve the salt and release the aromatic compounds of the spices. After boiling, the hot brine is poured over the meat in the jars, ensuring complete coverage. The jars are then sealed tightly to prevent any air from entering, which could compromise the preservation process. The sealed jars are stored in a cool, dark place to allow the pickling process to develop fully over several weeks. During this time, the meat absorbs the brine's flavors, resulting in a tangy, tender product. The versatility of pickled pork is another advantage. It can be eaten straight from the jar or incorporated into various dishes like stews and salads. The combination of preservation and flavor infusion makes pickling with vinegar a practical and delicious way to store meat for months, embodying a tradition that balances utility with culinary creativity. Number 5, the community spirit of preservation. The tradition of communal preservation in Amish communities is an essential practice that highlights the values of cooperation, knowledge sharing, and resourcefulness. On designated butchering days, families and neighbors gather to process and preserve meat for the seasons ahead. These gatherings are not merely tasks, but significant social events that bind the community together. Each individual contributes according to their skills and experience, with older members often taking the lead in teaching the younger generations the art of preservation. The process is highly organized, ensuring that every step, from slaughtering to curing, smoking, or rendering, is conducted efficiently. For example, large tables are set up outdoors for butchering, with everyone working in assembly line fashion. Each participant has a specific role. Some focus on cutting the meat into portions suitable for preservation. Others prepare the curing mixtures or manage the smokehouses, and a few handle rendering lard or cleaning the tools. The shared workload not only speeds up the preservation process, but also reduces individual labor, making it possible to process larger quantities of meat than one family could manage alone. Additionally, it fosters a spirit of mutual reliance and camaraderie. Children often have roles too, whether it's fetching water, stirring pots of lard, or simply observing and learning the techniques that they will carry on as part of their heritage. The social aspect is just as important as the practical. These gatherings are often filled with storytelling, laughter, and shared meals prepared from fresh cuts of pork. The exchange of recipes and techniques is common, with each family adding its unique twist to traditional preservation methods. This dynamic environment ensures that preservation knowledge is not only maintained, but evolves with new ideas passed around during these interactions. After the work is done, the fruits of the labor are distributed among families. The preserved pork, be it cured, smoked, pickled, or sealed in lard, becomes a shared resource, ensuring that no one in the community faces food insecurity during harsh winters. The communal approach also minimizes waste, as every part of the pig is utilized efficiently, from creating sausages with scraps to rendering fat into lard for sealing or frying. This practice underscores the Amish philosophy of interdependence and sustainability. It transforms a necessity into an event of cultural significance, ensuring the preservation of not only food, but also relationships and traditions that define their way of life. These communal preservation days exemplify how working together not only meets practical needs, but strengthens the social fabric of their community. Number 6, Sustainability lessons from the Amish. The Amish approach to sustainability is deeply intertwined with their lifestyle, emphasizing resourcefulness, zero waste, and community-driven practices. Their methods for preserving pork are not just about extending the shelf life of food, but also about maximizing the use of every available resource. This approach begins with the principle of utilizing the entire animal. Every part of the pig, from the meat to the fat and even bones, is used. For example, the meat is preserved through curing, smoking, or sealing in lard, while the fat is rendered into lard for cooking and preservation. Bones are often boiled to make broths, ensuring nothing is wasted. Their preservation techniques are inherently sustainable because they require no electricity. Smoking and curing rely on natural processes, while sealing in lard and pickling use ingredients that are easily accessible and renewable. This eliminates the dependency on refrigeration and plastic packaging, significantly reducing the environmental footprint. Additionally, these practices are localized, with the Amish often sourcing their salt, wood, and other materials from their immediate surroundings, further minimizing environmental impact. The tools and equipment used are designed to last generations, often handmade or maintained within the community. This contrasts with the modern culture of disposable items, highlighting a philosophy that values durability and repairability. For example, smokehouses and curing racks are crafted from local materials and are passed down as functional family assets. The Amish also prioritize knowledge transfer, ensuring these methods are preserved and adapted over time. Younger members learn these techniques directly from elders through hands-on participation in butchering and preservation days. This continuity sustains not just the practices themselves, but also the community's connection to their traditions and environment. Their use of natural methods like sealing in lard showcases their ingenuity. Lard, as a byproduct of butchering, is a renewable resource that provides an airtight barrier, keeping food fresh without the need for modern preservatives or packaging. This practice not only prevents food waste, but also contributes to a circular system where one resource directly supports another.